Hi, I'm Ara Herrera.
And I'm Karel Herrera.
Welcome to Stories of Strength, where we interview people who have overcome great challenges in life. So maybe you can also learn a thing or two on how to thrive and not just survive, especially during difficult times.
We are curious about what makes a person strong. What can we do when we are faced with great difficulties? What if you're going through abuse or trauma or depression? What if you're in an abusive relationship or living in trauma?
We want to see what is right and good about people. We are life coaches, founders of Brain Strong Initiative, helping people become more resilient, agile, and have better well being. We are the founders of Train Station, helping individuals and organizations all over the world through training.
Today, we are going to talk about the stories of strength of Nika Diwa, a former New York City fashion buyer turned international women's anti-abuse advocate, a new mother who recently launched a platform to connect and empower women through their pregnancy and postpartum journey. Ladies and gentlemen, Nika Diwa.
Hi!
Hello, how are you guys?
Amazing, of course, because we have you here with us. We're so excited.
Oh,
Thank you for
so
saying
happy to be here. Of course, anytime, anytime.
So I'll go straight to the questions now because we're featuring people whom we see as strong. We do hope that people get to be inspired by this as well. So um, basically, my first question is this. In 3 minutes or less, tell us your story.
In 3 minutes. Okay, so I always had this thing where I wanted to be worthy, to be enough, to be loved, right? And when I was really young, starting from high school, it was about boys. Like I was a little bit boy crazy. I don't know where it came from. My dad always loved me and my sister really well, but I had this fixation with like, am I beautiful enough? Am I worthy enough? And I think this is something that honestly, most girls, if not all, have dealt with that question, right? And for me, that's how it manifested. Because of that, I a relationship really, really early that was not a good one. He was really abusive and he was sexually abusive and very verbally abusive. And that was my first introduction to relationships. And that started a string of 6 years of abusive relationships. And a lot of women will ask, why didn't you leave? My response to that is you really like start to really believe that that is the only kind of love that exists, or like you begin to believe that that is what you are worthy of. You don't feel like you deserve anything better than that. And I just have to say that there because whenever I say that, women are like, why didn't you leave? So eventually I stopped that cycle, left. I finally had enough. I really believe God saved me. Decided to just turn everything around, focused on my career, focused on my friends and my family, and built a life for myself, and then ended up actually speaking on behalf of women who are survivors of that type of abuse. So I really leveraged the platform that I had as a successful woman, right? Like I had a successful career. Now fast forward in fashion. It was in the fashion industry in New York City, where I lived, and I would speak in different places in New York about my experience because it was really important to me and the organizations that I partnered with that women could see examples of women just like them who are struggling, right? In the US, it's 1 out of 4 women who are survivors of abuse. In the Philippines, it's 3 out of 5. Eventually, I got burned out in the corporate industry and fashion, but I still had such a desire for advocacy to speak to women and anti-abuse campaigns and organizations. And so I actually was in the Philippines just for a vacation, ended up partnering with Center of Hope, which rescues women from dangerous situations, and some of them are trafficked, rescues them from those situations, and started working with organizations like that, including International Justice Mission. They have a place quarters like all over the world. They're incredible, and started my own organizations and advocacies as well. And that's what I'm still very passionate about today. I have a daughter, so I just gave birth. And especially in the pandemic, I still really believe in championing for those women, telling stories, providing a space on the online platform for women to be seen, heard, and acknowledged. And also, most importantly, to know that there is healing, there is life after an abusive situation. And of course, as a mother, I'm really passionate about motherhood, and so I do speak a lot about motherhood. That's the thing that's different in this season. But I don't think that my heart to really come alongside those who don't have a voice, specifically in regards to abuse and healing thereafter, I don't think that will ever change. I think that's the one thing, honestly, no matter what happens in my life, will always stay static, because there's always someone who needs a voice, always someone who's going through it, and always someone who needs to know they're not alone. So I don't know if I made it in time.
Yeah.
But
that's
We're actually very lenient with the time.
it's a lot. And
It's
congratulations.
beautiful. It's really
beautiful.
beautiful.
I'd like to rewind a bit. And
Go.
when you said, you're still in this relationship because it's the only thing and at that point, it's normal, right? But then you had that turning point, and I want to know, how did that happen? What were the factors that led you to think, hey, I better stop this. I better leave this relationship. What were those things?
I had nothing else. All my friends were gone because I had pushed everyone away. Because at that point, when I hit my rock bottom, it's a cliche, but there's a reason why people say rock bottom all the time, because it's really significant, right? I had no one else, and not because of them, because I pushed everyone away, and specifically because I didn't want my friends to see the bruises on my body. This guy was extremely abusive, and there were literally bruises all over. And I remember I had one friend who, we were out at dinner and we were in the bathroom, and she said, "What is that?" And she saw it. And I said, "I fell down the stairs," something. I just made something up. And I knew in her eyes that she knew the truth. And I pushed her away, and I pushed everybody away. And I don't know, I guess I just realized, when you have nothing to lose, that at the same time, there's so much that you can gain, right? There's nowhere you can go but up at that point. And I was watching my life just flash before me. I mean, things got really, really, really dangerous. This guy used to literally take his hand and put it at my throat. And I don't know if you need to put a warning for this kind of, I don't know if this is a trigger, maybe you just put a trigger warning, but he used to take me by my throat and just like put me up against the wall until I would pass out, and then put me in the bathtub and just turn on the shower on cold to wake me up. Like, it was extremely dangerous. And I just realized there isn't anything left for me here. And it was a miraculous situation, honestly, that I was able to come to that wake up point. And I decided to start by telling one person. And that one person helped me get plugged into a community of people that told me a different narrative. Because what I needed to hear, the turning point for me, was that there could be a different story for me. Because all my life, from the ages of 17 to 22, I always thought, this is just what a relationship looks like. This is what my life is going to look like. But there's another story. So that different narrative, and I love how you always talk about rewiring neural pathways, because that's what changed it, is once I began to rewire that in my brain, everything changed.
My gosh, I'm having goosebumps and I'm teary-eyed right now. I'm very emotional with your story because it's just so real. And of course, me loving you, my heart goes to you too, right? But
You
Yeah.
you know that we're doing this really for the other women as well, who are in this situation, and who, women who still don't realize that they can be in a relationship that's not good for them. Sometimes it's not physical, but it's still
Right.
abusive, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure also that during the first few days or the first few moments after getting out of that relationship, it wasn't easy. And what was the struggle like, and what did you hold on to keep yourself out of that relationship?
Gosh, honestly, it's crazy, because the answer that I have is not what I thought I was going to say. as you were talking, I had a different answer planned, but then this really vivid image just popped in my head when you said, what was what you held on to, right? When things were hard and you wanted to go back. And I just thought of my little sister. Wow. Which is really surprising because I just didn't even think that I would think of that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is it okay to cry on this?
Sure.
Why? Whoever says that strong women don't cry.
We'll cry with you.
We'll cry with you.
I have a little sister who's 5 years younger than me, and she actually moved to New York the same time that I got out of that abusive relationship. And I remember feeling like such a failure because I didn't know who I was outside of that man. And I remember I just felt so embarrassed that I was her ate and that she had to watch that. And then one night I just asked her, we had a really honest conversation. And I said, what do you think of me? And she said, I think you're so strong. And I was like, what? You think I'm what? And that's the thing, women, like, you don't realize how strong you actually are. If you got up today and you're breathing, you are so strong. Life is not easy. It's not easy for any of us. And, but the thing is, as long as you are breathing, as long as you are living, someone is definitely watching. And as long as someone is watching, you can make a difference. And I realized that I can make a difference. I can show my sister that I am strong, not because I'm strong in the way that I thought strong looks like, but I'm strong in a real way, in an authentic way, in a way that's raw, you know? And that's what matters the most. I mean, we're not here to be like perfect. That's not what this looks like. Strength is sometimes weeping and realizing that you can change your story, starting with a really hard decision, right? Mm-hmm. And thanks for that question.
I want to dig deeper into that narrative, because if we are going to look at that from the age of 22, fast forwarding to you now, I'm sure that you could see this from an objective point of view. I mean, see, Nika, stand at a distance, see Nika. What did she do? What are the things that she has done for you to say that girl is strong? I want you to be able to acknowledge moments in your life, in Nika's life, wherein you could see strength. What were the probably you could think of 3 to 5 or 10 things that you could really pick on and say, at that point, this is what she did. She's strong. She's strong there. She's strong there. Could you?
Right. Definitely. I'll say 3. So one of the situations that was the most traumatic for me is I was raped on a family vacation from someone that I met there. And it resulted in a pregnancy, an unwanted pregnancy, and the person threatened me if I would not have an abortion. And I did not want the abortion, but I had it. And it was extremely traumatic. And I didn't talk about it for many years. I hid it from literally everyone. And one day, it was an evening, it was New Year's Eve. I remember my family was visiting from Dallas, Texas, and I was in New York. And the reason, this is important to note, that the reason I went ahead and had the procedure is because this man knew my dad was a pastor. And he said to my father, to me, I will tell your father, he said to me, I will tell your father, if you do not go through with this, I will expose you as the whore that you are in your church, is what he said. And that was my number one fear. My dad has always been like an angel to me. He's my best friend. And I was so afraid of causing him any kind of shame, any kind of sadness. And so fast forward to several years after that, I was experiencing what I didn't realize back then was PTS, post-traumatic shock, right? Visions and sadness and regret about what happened in the past. And I was in the bathroom just weeping. Like, I had these moments every once in a while because they were not dealt with. So they were just stored in my memory and in my body, right? My dad accidentally walked in the bathroom I didn't lock the door. I forgot to lock the door. And he saw me just destroyed on the bathroom floor. And he asked me, what is going on? And that was a very pivotal moment for me, because I chose to tell the truth. I chose to own what happened. And for the first time in many years, I sat down my mom and my dad and I told them everything that happened. I knew that it was a safe place. It was a safe time to do it. And I did it. And I'll never forget, they came alongside me and they wept with me. They didn't try to fix anything. They didn't try to teach me anything. They just cried with me. And I was so proud of myself. And that's one moment where I would say, wow, what a brave woman she is. Another one is when I quit my job, my 9-to-5 job, and got on a plane and went to the Philippines. And my husband was definitely right alongside me, being brave, because we had a really successful career in New York, both of us, and we left it because we knew that the calling and purpose that we had here was so much bigger than what our resume said about what we did. And I knew that at the end of my life, I wanted to be, remembered as someone who lived fully and loved really fully. And I just, all signs were pointing to here. That's another time when I would say I'm really proud of that woman. And then the third is being here in the Philippines in a pandemic and then pregnant. I was away from my family, and my daughter she's 7 months old, still hasn't met her grandparents. And I was told that I would not, you walked really closely with me on this journey. I was told I wouldn't be allowed to have my husband in the delivery room. I wasn't not allowed to have a phone in the delivery room. And because of that, and because of everything that we've discussed already on this call, that I had a lot of trauma about, right, the abortion. I didn't think I could have kids. I was really afraid. I struggled with thinking, can I do this? Is my body able to do this? Can I birth? Can I be a mother? Am I going to be enough? All those fears started coming back at me. And so I decided, with a lot of research, I know it's not for everybody, but I decided to have the baby at home so that I could have my own narrative of what I wanted for my birth, which meant my family, not my blood family, but my friends who had become family, were present. They were downstairs while I was giving birth to my baby upstairs, and it was unmedicated. Nothing wrong with if you had a medicated birth, but it was just a really cool experience to be able to partner with my body instead of pushing against the pain and saying, I don't want to feel that pain. Rather, partnering and saying and welcoming the process and saying, hey, pain, I know that you are here for a purpose, and that is to help me with each contraction, with each surge. You are going to help me birth my baby. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not going to fight you. I'm going to welcome you in and sit with you until we get this job done. That was the third thing, definitely, that I would say I'm really proud of. This is such a great conversation. You're asking me questions that I haven't even stopped to think about. So thank you for this conversation. Seriously. Yeah, but those are the three I would say.
You have such an unconventional story, and you chose to write that, and it takes a lot of bravery, a lot of courage, because you're comfortable in New York. Why move to the Philippines? And so that's such a brave story. You could do it medicated in a hospital and, just pass out the entire time, be unconscious. But your husband was with you while you were giving birth. You embraced it. And again, it shows so much bravery. I am very impressed by you. I've always been. I've always seen you as that strong person. But what a lot of people don't know is, the layers, the backstories, the resources you have that has made you strong. So if I may ask, what are the things that you could say to the women out there, to the men out there who need that kind of courage or who need that kind of strength? Would there be an advice that you could give to people? probably looking at your life as well, what are the things that you could impart as learning and knowledge?
Yeah, I love that. It may seem simple, but it's a lot harder than it seems. Ask for help. I think we are so privileged to be in a day and age where we can speak up and say, I'm not okay. We're so blessed because I know my parents' generation, they didn't have that privilege. It was seen as a weakness. And now, I mean, I don't mean for this to be a plug about Train Station. I really am not meaning for this to be like an ad. This is not sponsored. No one paid me to say what I'm about to say.
Thank you. We love you.
No, guys, I really believe that God is such a God of divine purpose because my husband and I met Karel and RR in a really tumultuous time when God was preparing us for an even bigger season, right? And bigger impact and influence. And because of that, there was a lot of insecurity that was bubbling up. We were fighting a lot. We thought we were going to get divorced several times. I can't tell you how many times I really thought my marriage was going to end. And me and Emeka made a pact to each other, and we asked RR and Karel, would you be the space for us to just be completely unfiltered? And when we need help, just not judge us and help us. Like you are, like I have had so many years of therapy. And I think in the time that you and I have spent together, this beautiful couple, like just in this short amount of time, I would say like less than a year, right? We met in the pandemic, right? Mm-hmm. I have come out more transformed than in all the years of therapy I've had in New York combined. And you cannot underestimate. I know it's like therapy, oh, cringe. Like, I know I lost some of you, so I'm asking you to come back. Like, listen, just hear me out. It's not as scary as it sounds. Forget the word therapy, right? Rewire your mind. Rewire your behaviors, right? Write a new narrative. I talked about it earlier. You can have a different story. If you're in a story right now and you want something better for yourself and you want something different for yourself, it starts with your mind. And this is what Karel and RR do. And I can't even tell you, like, you're probably noticing I'm like struggling coming up with the words, which is not something I usually struggle with, but it's because I do not have an adequate amount of words to thank you for everything that you have done for me and my husband, and for all the times that you have picked up our phone calls at 1:00 in the morning. Because being a strong woman, you don't just like become a strong woman and then you're strong forever, right? It's a journey. Sometimes you take a couple steps forward and then you take some back. And so if you're watching this right now and you were like wondering, maybe I need help. Maybe my trauma is so heavy that I need more than a friend is great. A friend, a spouse is great. But maybe you need someone who is qualified at a higher level because your trauma matters at a higher level. And Train Station is right here. Like, I'm really not trying to plug them on purpose, but I'm telling you, like, I've had therapists in New York. I've had therapists in Dallas, like in Los Angeles. I've never had anyone as effective as these two. And you would be so surprised what happens when you get help. You would be so surprised, like the burden lifted off of you. Just having someone who is equipped to walk alongside you, because I'm going to say this one thing. It's not a good feeling to ask for help with like a big problem and the person like is totally unqualified. Yeah. So I will say that I'm not saying there's anything wrong with your friends and family, but hey, like pray about it. Like think, okay, if my trauma is really big, maybe I should go to someone who's qualified. And I don't know, maybe this is a sign for someone. Because it's right in front of you. It's right in front of you. Ask for help.
Nika, I'm
I was smiling the whole time you were talking because the words that were coming out of your mouth, like compared to the first time I met you, it's like a different person talking, and I'm just so happy hearing you say those things. You've come a long way, and I'm just really happy, and that's what a strong woman is for me. I think so. That's why you're here.
Yeah, thank you.
You know,
Thanks.
with all the things that you've been through, it's easy to label, oh, a person who's broken, or oh, a person who's made, mistakes in life. But what I love is how you took it by the horns and, turned it around. You wrestled with it. You wrestled with those labels. You wrestled with those mistakes and took charge. And it's really bit by bit. And with what RR said, we could see the work that you've done. And when we talk about strength, after this we will try to consolidate what you've shared, in talking points. But what we would want is to zero in on what you're able to do. It's really practice. It's purposeful action that we need from people for them to be strong, to be stronger. And I'm just so proud of you. I just want to say that. Whenever you say, oh my goodness, Mech and I, it's like all leaps and bounds, the transformation, how we are talking, how we fight. I'm very proud of you, right?
Yeah.
What I want also, maybe just to recap a couple of things and help out a lot more people. I'm sure it was tough. Things have been tough. And you said that your sister helped you to transform that narrative. That was the start. But then again, all throughout, how do you keep on? How do you keep on getting that strength? Like, how many times you've said you wanted to divorce Mac and then you decide to keep on and whatever.
Because it's not a one-time thing, It's
No.
Yeah. But what is that resolve that you have within you that you think sustains you in your drive to help others, in your drive to make your relationship better,
to keep going?
Yeah. And I love these questions. Okay, so my faith is really important to me. And honestly, God has met me over and over again. And I would even say, like, I've slapped him on the face multiple times, and he just keeps coming back and pursues me, and has been the one before my husband, because your husband won't fix you. A man won't fix you. Right, ladies? Someone needs, that's a word for someone. They're not there to fix you, but there's a love that comes way before any other. And I love this verse that says, we love because he first loved us. And so that's really the love that has sustained me. I'm really stubborn and I love Jesus. But when ish hits the fan, I like turn into this gangster from the Bronx. It's like, who like forgets she's saved. Like, it's really weird. I get really crazy. I forget, for that moment, I forget that I'm saved. And I just, but God is so good because he is a God who already knows and factors in our unique personalities. Mm-hmm. And for me, I think that it's not an accident that I named my daughter Zion, which means God's dwelling place, because I can't tell you how many times this little girl, who's not even 8 months old yet, has led me back to the heart of God, which is a heart of safety, a heart of empowerment, of love, of kindness, and of truth over the lies. And she's led me over and over again. And I really believe that for everyone, because God is such a personal God, that he speaks and moves and loves through people. And so I really feel like if you don't know what the purpose to go on for is, or you're kind of like, what am I even doing? Like, ask God for a tangible touch of his presence and his healing in your life. And he will never run out of creative ways to do that. Back then it was my sister, right? At another point it was advocacy, right? And right now it's my daughter. And so, yeah, he's a creative God. He's creative with your healing. And I think that that's something we should really own, is that healing it's not tragic. Healing is a celebration. Just because it's painful doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. Just because it's painful doesn't mean that it can't get better on the other side. Often the things that are the most beautiful got there through painstaking things, right? Before it's a butterfly, it has to be a caterpillar. A caterpillar is not cute, y'all.
I'm really loving this conversation, and this is like a snippet of how we usually talk. How we talk to each other, how we tell stories. But I'm going to give you something a little bit tough, because I know you're a woman of words, and there's so many things to define or describe something. But I'm going to limit you with 3
All right.
words.
Cool.
You need to come up with 3 adjectives that describes you.
Resilient. Girl. Passionate. And a lover. I love hard. Unashamedly. That was a hard one.
And I think that's really what makes you strong. Your resilience, your passion, and your love. So thank you so much, Nika. We celebrate you. We celebrate your strength.
Love you so much.
Victories.
I love listening to you. Thank you so much for sharing. And I'm sure a lot of people will be able to relate, and a lot of people will be able to learn from your experiences. In our search for behaviors of strength, we have seen that strong people find a better meaning in what they have been through. They change their narrative and take charge of a better one.
Nika, having gone through abuse, took charge by getting out of abuse and finding healing by helping others in abusive relationships.
But the process to getting there was evident as based on studies on positive psychology and resilience. People who are resilient gather information. They learn as much as they can and use that information to help themselves and even others.
She did research, learning more and having more awareness of her situation and what she can do about it. When she was talking to her pain, and acknowledging that pain has a purpose is a great way of seeing situations, painful experiences differently. What is this pain telling me? What is this difficult situation telling me now?
Now, people who have been through abuse often have fear, regret, and shame. And again, she has overcome that by seeking a better narrative about herself. She sought a better narrative or meaning through her faith and sought her truth and bringing her shame, her fear, and regret to the light. Faith in God and having a God who loves unconditionally gives her the strength to face her story. She has the support of her family and friends, and alongside that, she has a very good grasp of her worth based on her faith and that her shame can be brought to the light because she is still valuable in God's eyes.
So, how do you bring it to the light when you've experienced shame, fear, regret? How do you expose it? Well, you take courage to do so and look at it for what it is. You may have gone through abuse, but you don't have to stay a victim all your life. Seek a better narrative, a better meaning. This is what happened to me versus this is who I am. When you own your truth and you acknowledge what has happened to you and know that those things don't define you, you can admit to faults and failures and even talk about what shames you, because if you own it, nothing anyone can say about you or the situation can put you down because it is already exposed and owned by you.
People who are resilient are able to rise above their mistakes, meaning they are able to learn from it and are able to make themselves better from it.
So you've made mistakes. Own it. Learn from it. Be better from it. And because of it.
Please like and subscribe.
And we hope to see you again in our future Stories of Strength.
See you.